Good afternoon to all of you, and I welcome to all of you to this class of BECC 134 Block 3, Unit-7, Inflation Concept, Types and Measurement. In inflation होची जब मुद्रास्फीति आमे आज एक क्षेत्र आज आमे will discuss about the definition, the basic concept of inflation, then various types of inflation and how do you measure inflation. Then after that we will to discuss about the impact of inflation. First, let me define inflation. As you know, the inflation refers to a situation of continuous and persistent rise in price level. जहाँ को आमे कहूँ गोटे यह एक आर्थिक समय बा आर्थिक अवस्था बुझा जाए जिते इकोनॉमी रे आम अर्थव्यवस्था रे पूरा साधारण दरदाम माने विभिन्न प्रकार द्रव्य सामग्री दाम गुड़िक कंटिन्यूअसली राइज करथबो माने फॉर ए लॉन्ग टाइम इट मस्ट बी कंटिन्यूअस पूरा परसिस्टेंट कंटिन्यूअस राइज करथबो आ आमी इटा कहूची इन्फ्लेशन तेनो फ्रॉम पॉलिसी पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू inflation refers to a considerable and persistent rise in the general price level over a period of time. मुझे बुझे पड़ता है then what the difference the price and general price level? हाँ अच्छी price मानो जो the price is defined as the rate at which the goods and services are exchanged for money, or it is the amount of money which is received in exchange or by selling certain amount of goods and services. Or we can define price as the monetary value of a particular commodity. Suppose by selling 50 kg of potato, I am receiving 100 rupee. ताला एटी कहा जीवो तामाने by selling मु कहबी by selling 50 kg of potato or 1 quintal of potato, suppose I am getting 500 rupee. ताने गुटे क्विंटल आलू रो दाम होची 500 rupee. हमको ये बुझा पड़ो तामाने जेतले द्रव्यर बा सामग्रीर मूल्य को बा तार विनिमय मूल्य को टंका आकार प्रकाश कर जाए ता कोंती प्राइस इट पर्टिकुलर कमोडिटी किंतु द जनरल प्राइस लेवल माने होछ ना द जनरल प्राइस लेवल मींस इट रिलेट्स टू द प्राइस ऑफ ए बास्केट ऑफ गुड्स एंड सर्विसेज माने कि एक ग्रुप ऑफ गुड्स एंड सर्विसेज हम ता कहू कॉल द जनरल प्राइस लेवल सपोज वर्तमान समय मन करूँ आमर आलू दर बढ़ी पेट्रोलियम दर बढ़ी किरोसिन दर बढ़ी पियाज दर बढ़ी तेणु जिते बजार में मोटामोटी ऑलमोस्ट ऑल समस्त द्रव्यर दरदाम अना अधिक वृद्धि पाए एक सांगे जनरल प्राइस लेवल तेणु ये इन्फ्लेशन अर्थ होची मुद्रास्फीतिर अर्थ होची जे जेतेबेले बजार में बहुत द्रव्यर दरदाम एककालीन एक समय माने उपरमा होता है अधिक दर वृद्धि पाई था आलू बढ़ला 20 केजी 25 किलो प्याज बढ़ला 5 टंका रु 15 टंका चाउल बढ़ला 20 टंका रु 30 टंका तेणु जिते गोटे ग्रुप ऑफ कमोडिटी बा सामग्री गोटे किछि मुष्टि ग्रुप माने किछि समष्टि द्रव्य मानकर दरदाम एककालीन बढ़ी बढ़ी जाउची एवं किछि दिन एवं दीर्घस्थायी रोची ताकंती मुद्रास्फीति समय तेणु दी पॉलिसी पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू एवं ए पॉलिसी पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू गवर्नमेंट टेक्स वेरियस प्रिकॉशनरी स्टेप्स टू कंट्रोल दैट इन्फ्लेशन तो ये मुद्रास्फीति बा जो दरदाम वृद्धि को नियंत्रण करने पे सरकार कौन करती ना विभिन्न फिस्कल ऑपरेशन मनी ऑपरेशन होती तेणु आउट कथा कहछि जेतेबेले बजार रे जेकोस कारण सपोज टंकार परिमाण वृद्धि पाइला किंतु आउटपुट द्रव्य उत्पादन परिमाण वृद्धि पाइ नै तार कोन कहजिवो ना व्हेन द मनी सप्लाई इंक्रीजेस इन द इकोनॉमी द परचेसिंग पावर ऑफ द पीपल इंक्रीजेस सो इट लीड टू एन इंक्रीज इन डिमांड एंड दैट डिमांड कॉजेस ए राइज इन प्राइस दैट इज नॉट द इन्फ्लेशन तेणु मो विभिन्न इकोनॉमिस्ट अर्थनीति मानकर केतरा डेफिनेशन आपन उपस्थापन करी मन कोन तो Professor Gulbon से कहले इन्फ्लेशन इज टू मच मनी चेसिंग टू फ्यू गुड्स सी भाबरे हमर एसी डिगु कहले इन्फ्लेशन एग्जिस्ट व्हेन मनी इनकम इज एक्सपेंडिंग मोर देन इन प्रोपोर्शन टू इंक्रीज इन अर्निंग एक्टिविटी माने हमर ମୁଦ୍ରାଗତ ଆୟ ବଢି ଯାଉଛି କିନ୍ତୁ ଆମର ଯାହା କୁହନ୍ତି ରିଏଲ ଇନକମ୍ ଆମର ବଜାରରେ ଏ ଯୋଉ ଦ୍ରବ୍ୟ ପରିମାଣ ବୃଦ୍ଧି ପାଉନି ତ ଟଙ୍କାର ବା ଆମ ଲୋକଙ୍କ କ୍ରୟ ଶକ୍ତି ବା କିଣା ଶକ୍ତି ବୃଦ୍ଧି ପାଉଛି ତାକୁ କୁହାଯିବ ଇନଫ୍ଲେସନ। କ୍ୟାମେରା ମଧ୍ୟ ସେମିତି କହିଲେ କ୍ୟାମେରା ଲେଖିଲେ ଇନଫ୍ଲେସନ ଇଜ ଟୁ ମଚ୍ କରେନ୍ସି ଇନ୍ ରିଲେସନ ଟୁ ଫିଜିକାଲ ଭଲ୍ୟୁମ ଅଫ ବିଜନେସ। ସେମିତି ଜୋଫାରି କ୍ରାଉଥର କହିଲେ ଇନଫ୍ଲେସନ ଇଜ ଏ ଷ୍ଟେଟ୍ ଇନ୍ ହୁଇଚ ଦି ଭ୍ୟାଲୁ ଅଫ ମନି ଇଜ ଫଲିଂ that is prices are rising. ସେମିତି ଗାର୍ନର ଆକ୍ଲେ କହିଲେ ଇନଫ୍ଲେସନ ଇଜ ଏ persistent and appreciable rise in the general level of or average price level। ଆମେ ଯଦି ବିଭିନ୍ନ ଦ୍ରବ୍ୟ ସାମଗ୍ରୀ ବିଭିନ୍ନ ଦ୍ରବ୍ୟର ପ୍ରାଇସ୍ ହାରାହାରି କରିବା ତାକୁ କୁହନ୍ତି ମାନେ ଏଭରେଜ ପ୍ରାଇସ୍ ଯଦି ବଢି ବଢି ଗଲା ଆମ ଇକୋନୋମିରେ ତାହା ମଧ୍ୟ ଇନଫ୍ଲେସନାରୀ ସିଚୁଏସନ। ମୁଁ ଗୋଟେ ଉଦାହରଣ ଦେବି ବା ଇନଫ୍ଲେସନ ସମୟରେ ଆମର ଟଙ୍କାର ଭ୍ୟାଲୁ କମି ଯାଉଛି ଦି ବାଇଂ କାପାସିଟି କମି ଯାଉଛି। ମୁଁ ଏଇଠି ଆପଣଙ୍କର ଉଦାହରଣ ଦେବି ସପୋଜ 3 ଦିନ ତଳେ ଗୋଟେ ଦ୍ରବ୍ୟ ଆଳୁର ଦାମ ମନେ କରନ୍ତୁ ଥିଲା 4 ଟଙ୍କା ଆମ ପାଖରେ ମୁଁ 100 ଟଙ୍କା ନେଇକି ହାଟକୁ ଯାଉଛି ବା ବଜାରକୁ ଯାଉଛି ତାହେଲେ କ'ଣ ନାଇଁ ମୁଁ ଯଦି ଏଟା 100 ଟଙ୍କା ଖର୍ଚ୍ଚ କରିବି ବଜାରରେ ଖାଲି ଆଳୁ କିଣିବାରେ ତାହେଲେ ମୁଁ କେତେ କେଜି କିଣିବି ନା 100 ଟଙ୍କା ଖର୍ଚ୍ଚ କଲେ 4 ଟଙ୍କା ଯଦି ପ୍ରତି ଦର ଆଳୁ କେଜି ୟୁନିଟ ବା ପ୍ରତି କେଜି ପ୍ରତି ଥିବ 4 ଟଙ୍କା ତାହେଲେ ମୁଁ 25 କିଲୋ କିଣିବି। କିନ୍ତୁ ଆଜି ମୁଁ ବଜାର ଗଲାକୁ ତାର ଦରଦାମ ବଢିଗଲା ମାନେ ଆଳୁ ଦାମ ବଢିଗଲା 4 ଟଙ୍କାରୁ 5 ଟଙ୍କା ହେଲା କେଜି ପ୍ରତି। ଯଦି ଆଳୁର ଦାମ 3 ଦିନ ପରେ ଆଜି ଯଦି ବଢି ଯାଉଛି 5 ଟଙ୍କାକୁ 4 ଟଙ୍କାରୁ 5 ଟଙ୍କା ବଢି ଯାଉଛି ତାହେଲେ କ'ଣ ହବ ନା ସେଇ 100 ଟଙ୍କାର କିଣିବା ଶକ୍ତି ବା ପର୍ଚେଜ ପାୱାର କେତେ ହେଇଯିବ ନା ସେଇ 100 ଟଙ୍କାର କ୍ରୟ ଶକ୍ତି ବା କିଣା ଶକ୍ତି ହେଇଯିବ କେତେ 20 କେଜି ହବ। କାହିଁକି ନା 100 ଟଙ୍କା divided by 5 रुपी ଆମର ହଉଛି କେତେ 20 କେଜି ବୁଝିଲାନି। ତେଣୁ ମାନେ 4 ଟଙ୍କା ଥିଲା ବେଳେ ଯଦି ଆମେ 100 ଟଙ୍କା ଖର୍ଚ୍ଚ କରୁଥିଲୁ 25 କିଲୋ କିଣୁଥିଲୁ ଆଉ ଯେତେବେଳେ ଦାମ ବଢିଯାଉଛି 5 ଟଙ୍କାକୁ ତାହେଲେ ଆମେ ସେଇ 100 ଟଙ୍କାର ତାର କିଣିବା ଶକ୍ତି ବା କେତେ କିଣିବ ସେ 100 ଟଙ୍କା ବିନିମୟରେ ଆମେ କେତେ କିଣିପାରିବା ନା ଆମେ କିଣିବା 20 କେଜି କିଣିବା ମାନେ ଏଠି ଆମର 5 କେଜି ହ୍ରାସ ପାଇଲା। ତାମାନେ ଆମେ ଯଦି ସେ 25 ଟଙ୍କା ଆଗରୁ ଯୋଉ 25 କିଲୋ କିଣୁଥିଲୁ 4 ଟଙ୍କାର 25 କେଜି କିଣୁଥିଲୁ ସେ 25 ଟଙ୍କା ଯଦି ଆମେ ରିଏଲ ଇନକମ୍ ଯଦି ଆମେ କନଷ୍ଟାଣ୍ଟ ରଖିବାକୁ ଚାହୁଁଛୁ ତାହେଲେ ଆମକୁ 100 ପରିବର୍ତ୍ତେ 125 ଟଙ୍କା ଖର୍ଚ୍ଚ କରିବାକୁ ପଡିବ। ଏହା ହେଇପାରେ ତାମାନେ ଆମେ ଏକା ଜିନିଷକୁ ଅଧିକ ପଇସାରେ ଖର୍ଚ୍ଚ କରିବୁ ବା 100 ଟଙ୍କାର ମୂଲ୍ୟ ଯେତେବେଳେ ଥିଲା 25 କିଲୋ 4 ଟଙ୍କା ଯେତେ ଦରଦାମ ଥିଲା ସେଇ 100 ଟଙ୍କାକୁ ଆଜି ଯେତେ ଦରଦାମ ବୃଦ୍ଧି ପାଉଛି ବା ଇନଫ୍ଲେସନ ହେଉଛି ଆମେ 25 କେଜି ବଦଳରେ 20 କେଜି କିଣୁଛୁ। ତେଣୁ ଏଠି ଆମର ସେଇ 100 ଟଙ୍କାର କିଣିବା ଶକ୍ତି ହ୍ରାସ ପାଇଲା 25 କେଜିରୁ 20 କେଜି ତ ପର୍ଚେଜ ପାୱାର ଇଜ ଡିକ୍ଲାଇନିଂ। ତେଣୁ ଏଇଠି କୁହାଯିବ ଦି ଭ୍ୟାଲୁ ଅଫ ମନି ଇଜ ଡିକ୍ରିଜିଂ ବା ଦି ବାଇଂ କାପାସିଟି ବା ପର୍ଚେଜ ପାୱାର ଇଜ ଫଲିଂ। ତେଣୁ ବଟ୍ କିନ୍ତୁ there is no universally accepted definition of inflation. The definition of inflation has been defined differently by different economists. There is no unanimity among the opinion of the economists. So different economists have defined inflation different way. जहाँ कहली फुलबन कहले inflation is too much money chasing quickly goods. Pico कहले inflation is exists where money income is expanding more than proportion to increase in earning activity. Simply Akla कहले inflation is a persistent or appreciable rise in general price level by average price level or when average price level moves upwards हमको इटी पूरी बुझा पड़ियो। तेरा ଆଉ କଥା ମୁଁ ଆପଣଙ୍କୁ ଏଠି କହି ଇନଫ୍ଲେସନ ସହିତ ଆମେ ମଧ୍ୟ ଆହୁରି କେତେ ଜିନିଷ ଆମକୁ ମାନେ ଆହୁରି କେତେ ଅଛି ଟର୍ମ ଅଛି ଆମେ ତାକୁ କହୁଛୁ ଗୋଟେ ଡିଫ୍ଲେସନ। ନା ଇନଫ୍ଲେସନ ଅପୋଜିଟ ହେଉଛି ଡିଫ୍ଲେସନ। ଯଦି ଇନଫ୍ଲେସନ ହେଲା ଇଟ୍ ଇଜ ଏ ସିଚୁଏସନ ଅଫ କଣ୍ଟିନ୍ୟୁଅସ୍ ଏଣ୍ଡ ସିଗ୍ନିଫିକାଣ୍ଟ ଇନକ୍ରିଜ ଇନ ଦ ଜେନେରାଲ ପ୍ରାଇସ୍ ଲେଭେଲ। ଡିଫ୍ଲେସନ ହେଉଛି କ'ଣ ନା ଇଟ୍ ଇଜ ଏ କଣ୍ଟିନ୍ୟୁଅସ୍ ଏଣ୍ଡ ସିଗ୍ନିଫିକାଣ୍ଟ ଡିକ୍ରିଜ ଇନ ଦ ଜେନେରାଲ ପ୍ରାଇସ୍ ଲେଭେଲ। ତେଣୁ ଇନଫ୍ଲେସନ ସମୟରେ ଯେତେବେଳେ ଟଙ୍କାର କ୍ରୟ ଶକ୍ତି କମିଯାଏ ଡିଫ୍ଲେସନ ସମୟର ଟଙ୍କାର କ୍ରୟ ଶକ୍ତି ବୃଦ୍ଧି ପାଇଥାଏ ବା ପ୍ରାଇସ୍ ଦର ବା ଦରଦାମଟା ତଳକୁ ଖସିଥାଏ ବା ପ୍ରତ୍ୟେକ ଦ୍ରବ୍ୟର ଦରଦାମ ହ୍ରାସ ପାଇଥାଏ ତାକୁ କୁହନ୍ତି ଡିଫ୍ଲେସନ। ଯେମିତି ଗ୍ରେଟ୍ ଡିପ୍ରେସନ ହେଇଥିଲା 1930 1929 ଆରମ୍ଭ ହେଇଥିଲା 1930 ସରିଥିଲା ୟୁଏସଏ ରେ। out of out ଆମେ ପାଇବୁ stagflation ମାନେ କ'ଣ ନା stagflation is a situation of mix ନା stagnation in output ଆଉ a rise in the price level ମାନେ ଆମେ ଏଠି ବୁଝା ପଡ଼ିବ ଯେ stagflation is a situation where an economy grows very slowly at a zero rate but prices keep rising এবং শেষে কোন হবে না the side effects of this stagflation are increase in output without increase in output or it leads to an increase in unemployment rate and only price rise করে যেটাকে আমি কইছো it is stagflation বা it raises economic dilemma in the action to take ଆଉ ଟର୍ମ ଆସିବ ଆମେ ଯାହା କହୁଛୁ ହାଇପର ଇନଫ୍ଲେସନ ସେ ଗୋଟେ ଟର୍ମ ଆସିଲା ମାନେ ଯେତେବେଳେ when the rising price is very high too much high 200% 300% 500% ଆଉ ଅଛି core inflation ତ the core inflation is a measurement of inflation after removing the transitory or temporary price volatility or price changes is known as core inflation. If the temporary price shocks are taken into account, it may affect the estimated overall inflation. To eliminate this possibility, core inflation is considered to assess the actual inflation by removing the temporary shocks and volatility. Out of it has the various types of inflation. ଏଠି ମୁଁ ଆପଣଙ୍କୁ ଏଠି ବୁଝାବାକୁ ଚାହୁଁଛି ଦେଖନ୍ତୁ ଆମର ଅଛି ଏଇ ହେଲା ଷ୍ଟାଗଫ୍ଲେସନ ଇନଫ୍ଲେସନ ଡିଫରେନ୍ସ ମୁଁ ବୁଝେଇଲି ଆପଣଙ୍କୁ ଆଉ ଆସୁଛି ଦେଖନ୍ତୁ the various types of inflation. So when the inflation, the percentage of changes or rise in the price level is in between 2 to 6%, it is called moderate inflation, or it is also known as the called very slow inflation. So when the general price level increases slowly but steadily, it is known as the moderate inflation. And in India, the Monetary Policy Committee, they take the resort to inflation targeting, and they decided that the committee, the Monetary Policy of the Reserve Committee, our central bank, has decided that the rate of inflation should not exceed more than 4%. If inflation remains, if the inflation remains within 4%, 2 to 6%, it is known as moderate inflation. Another known as the galloping inflation. Galloping inflation refers to a situation when the rate of rising price levels becomes two digits. If it becomes 20%, 40%, 60%, 80%, it is known as called the galloping. ଯେମିତି ଘୋଡ଼ାର ପାହୁଣ୍ଡ ବା ଘୋଡ଼ାର ଯୋଉ ଷ୍ଟେପ୍ ପକାଇ ଯାଉଛି ମାନେ ଖୁବ ଜୋରେ ସ୍ପିଡ୍ ପକାଇ ଯାଉଛି ତେଣୁ when the price rise moves faster or the percentage of rise in the average price level is more than 20% or it comes to 80%, 20, 30, it becomes two digits, 20%, 40%, 60%. It is known as the galloping inflation. It has taken place in Brazil in the past, in the year 1970. Then I have also looked hyperinflation is a situation when the price rise is very faster. Then this hyper inflation has taken 8 times in the world. One in the during 1980s, which has taken place in Brazil. Then in the year 2008 and 9, it has taken place in African country Zimbabwe, and it has also taken after First World War in Germany. And here I can give one example. In Zimbabwe, in the year 2008, the price inflation is very high. It was impossible to estimate the rate of inflation. It was around 79.6 billion percent in November 2008, which has taken place in the country, African country, Zimbabwe. So, in the African country. So it is all about stagflation, deflation, inflation, core inflation, etc. So I will take you. Then, how do we measure the price level? Okay, so before going to define about this to measure this price levels, I will come to. I would like to discuss about the what is the monetary policy, fiscal policy, and a policy, so that you can understand in a very better way. Then we will come to the measurement part of the inflation. So the just we can measure these changes in the price level by one technique or device, or it known as the statistical device, which is known as the index number. And uh, index number is defined. Index number is defined. Uh, it, it is just a device or statistical technique for comparing the magnitude of a group of distinct but related variables into or more time period. Okay, and it means there are two or it means when you compare the price index of 1 year, which is known as base year, to the price index of the another year, uh, current year. So by comparing the 2 years price level, we can measure what the change in the price level. So a price level or the inflation can be measured by one structural device known as the called the index number. It helps us to compare the changes in a group of distinct but related variables in two or more time period. Okay. Suppose say in 1 year, suppose the price of a commodity was say for 100. Okay, and now in the other year the price changes to 125. Then it can defined by the price index. Okay, for example, if the price of a kilo potato goes up, increases from rupees 8 in 2017 to rupees 10 in the 2018, then the price index in this product can be written as index I in the 2017 2018 is equal to 100 into 10 by 8. 10 is the price of the current year or T, and 8 is the price index of the zero means the price of the previous year. So here the I mean we need 25% more money to maintain our consumption of the potato at the same or level. So and there are two types of price index number. One is known as the wholesale price index number, and another is consumer price index number. If we take into consideration the price of the wholesale market or from the consumers market, from the retail price, it is known as the called the consumer price index. If we take into account the average price of the wholesale market, it is known as the wholesale price index. So therefore, I can tell you that index numbers could be of various types. Majorly, they are of two types: wholesale price index and consumer price index. Both the prices indices are different in terms of the goods and services included. And the second component is we give the weightage according to the urgency or importance of the commodity. And another thing that the prices are taken into account whether the wholesale price or retail price. So in case of wholesale price index, is the prices of a called representative basket of wholesale goods. This index measures the changes in price of goods and services at the wholesale market. In India, the wholesale price index is published by Office of the Economic Advisor Department for Promotion of Industry and International Trade, Ministry of Commerce and Industry, Government of India. And the data are collected at the first point, of both sale in the called domestic market. The prices used are wholesale prices for primary articles and retail prices for fuel and items and ex factory prices for manufactured products. One advantage of the wholesale price index is that it has a long history dating back to January 1942, which makes it useful for assessing long-term trends in inflation. The wholesale price index covers a broad range of goods from raw materials to petrol products or finished manufactured goods like automobiles. A major limitation of the wholesale price index is that it excludes the service sector, which has a major contribution to GDP. Consumer price index, on the other hand, measures the changes over the time in general price level of goods and services in the retail market or in the consumer market, where the households acquire or purchase these consumer goods. The consumer price index numbers in India are widely used as a macroeconomic indicator of inflation because it indicates the standard of living of the consumer or of the common people or Aam Aadmi as a tool for inflation targeting by the RBI. RBI take into account this consumer price index for monitoring price stability. And for indexation of or also DA for providing DA or for dearness allowances to the government employees as deflector for a national account. So the consumer price index is published by the Central Statistics Office (CSO) of Government of India. We must come across the term headline inflation in various newspapers or electronic media or TV news channels or various reports about the index number or about the further changes in the inflation. It refers to inflation based on the comprehensive consumer price index. But before making any conclusion on the inflation or meaning of inflation or the various measurement of inflation by the index number and various other concept of inflation and deflation, we must understand, we can better understand inflation by our the called the various phases of called business cycle. So let us first explain what the business cycle. Business cycle is the upheaval or ups and downs, the periods of booms and slumps of the economic activity. So it is the economic fluctuations in the economy. When the economy of the economic growth deviates from the equilibrium rate of growth, or when the economy deviates from its steady growth line, it is known as the changes or various upheavals or ups and downs of this economic situation. You see, any country of the world, it passes through various ups and downs phases of the economy. When an economy is passing through an called prosperity or in the economic term, it means the called expansionary period, it is known as the inflation period. So you see in the diagram, this ups and down, ये जो हमने जो देखो वक्राकार देखाउची, आमे ताको कहूचु जे से माने बिजनेस साइकिल लाइन, ताको बिजनेस साइकिल लाइन. आ जोटा स्ट्रेट लाइन हम देखुचु ताको आमे कहूचु इक्विलिब्रियम लाइन बा स्टेडी ग्रोथ लाइन हम कहूचु. अपन ए देखंतु ए जो पहाड़ बळे पर्वत बळे जोटा गोटे बा गोटे माउंटेन बळे आइछि प्रथमे আমি তা কହୁଛୁ ଦି ଫେଜ୍ ଅଫ୍ ପ୍ରସ୍ପାରିଟି। ଦେଖନ୍ତୁ କେମିତି ଆମର ଇକ୍ୱିଲିବ୍ରିୟମ୍ ଷ୍ଟ୍ରେଟ୍ ଲାଇନ୍ ଠୁ ତାହା କେମିତି ପୁରା ଡେଭିଏଟ୍ କରୁଛି, ଯାହା କୁହନ୍ତି ରାଇଜ୍ ଇନ୍ ଦି ପ୍ରାଇସ୍ ଲେଭେଲ୍ বা ଏକ୍ସପାନ୍ସନ୍ ପିରିୟଡ଼, ତାକୁ ଆମେ କହୁଛୁ। On the left side period ଆମେ କହୁଛୁ ଇନଫ୍ଲେସନ୍, ଏବଂ on the right side page ଆମେ କହୁଛୁ ଦେଖନ୍ତୁ ଏଇଠି ଏଇଟାକୁ ଆମେ କହୁଛୁ ଇନଫ୍ଲେସନ୍, and on the right side page ଆମେ ରିସେସନ୍ କହୁଛୁ বা କହୁଛୁ ଡିସଇନଫ୍ଲେସନ୍ କହୁଛୁ বা ଫଲ୍ ଇନ୍ ପ୍ରାଇସ୍ କହୁଛୁ। ଏଇଟା ଆପଣମାନେ ଏଇଠି ଦେଖନ୍ତୁ ଦ ଏଣ୍ଟାୟାର ପିରିୟଡ଼ଟା ହେଉଛି ଆମେ ତାକୁ କହୁଛୁ ଦି ଫେଜ୍ ଅଫ୍ ପ୍ରସ୍ପାରିଟି ଫେଜ୍, ପ୍ରଥମ ଫେଜ୍। ଏବଂ ତାର ଟପ୍ ପିକ୍ ପୋଜିସନ୍ ଗୋଟେ ଅଛି ତାର, ମାନେ when the price rises to the highest level, ପିକ୍ ପଏଣ୍ଟ ଆମେ କହୁଛୁ। ତାପରେ ଆମେ ଦେଖୁଛୁ how this line falls down, coming down, it crosses the equilibrium line and it moves down further and further, and it reaches the most bottom point or the so lowest point ଅଛି drop, ଆମେ କଥା ଆମେ ତାକୁ drop କହୁଛୁ, trough। এই ପିରିୟଡ଼କୁ ଆମେ କହୁଛୁ ଡିଫ୍ଲେସନ୍। ଏବଂ ଏ ଦେଖନ୍ତୁ ଏ ଯୋଉ ଡିଫ୍ଲେସନ୍ ସମୟରେ କେମିତି ଫଲ୍ ଇନ୍ P by price level, fall in O by output, fall in employment, E, fall in income, Y, fall in purchasing power, fall in aggregate demand. तापरे after taking various government steps, when the economy moves or gets the recovery from the period of depression, I'm the coach recovery period. A period I'm the coach full depression period. It happened during 1930s, from which was there in the period from 1929 to 1936. Then it called the recovery period. But again, क्रॉस कर जाउची हमर एटी लाइन को सेटा एक्सपेंशन। ए जो ड्रॉप माने सबठो लोएस्ट बा बॉटम लेवल टू ए जो इक्विलिब्रियम लाइन पर्यंत ए प्रोडक्ट हम कहू रिक्वायर्ड पिरियड। ए तो कोन होची ना बिकॉज़ ऑफ द गवर्नमेंट रो वेयर स्टेप्स बा गवर्नमेंट पॉलिसी अडॉप्ट कला जो there has been change in the economic activity, so the price has rise बा ताको राइज इन प्राइस लेवल, आउटपुट राइज करची, एम्प्लॉयमेंट राइज करची, इनकम राइज करची, पर्चेज पावर राइज करची, एग्री डिमांड मध्ये राइज करची। सो ए जो ओवर टाइम पीरियड, ए ओवर टाइम पीरियड रे जति गुटे इकोनॉमी विभिन्न अप्स एंड डाउन्स फेज गति करे, आमे ताको कहू बिजनेस साइकिल बा ट्रेड साइकिल हम ताको कहू। म आउ थरे आपण एठी बुझिबी एठी केमता मे इन्फ्लेशन को आउट टिके पूरा भलो भाई बुझिबा। एठी देखंतु एठी देखंतु आमे फिस्कल पॉलिसी नबा आ गोटे आज नबा आपण पढिबी जे फिस्कल पॉलिसी मॉनेटरी पॉलिसी आज नबा आमे फिस्कल पॉलिसी का कोंदी नादी फिस्कल पॉलिसी इज द पॉलिसी विथ रिगार्ड टू the public revenue, public expenditure, but I'm talking fiscal policy refers to decision of the government regarding public revenue, public taxes. Seem to have monetary policy. Monetary policy, on the other hand, which refers to decisions taken by the central bank of the country. It is actually what is fiscal policy? Fiscal policy होता है public revenue, government taxes, public expenditure, government spending. एवं पुनी आमरो fiscal policy पुनी होती दुई भाग अच्छी। कुछ expansionary fiscal policy when government increases public expenditure, government spending, government borrows more money, government invests more. I'm talking about expansionary fiscal policy. और जो कॉन्ट्रैक्शनरी फिस्कल पॉलिसी कहते हैं ना, when government imposes more taxes, government reduces spending, public spending, ये होच कौन ना हम तक कुछ कॉन्ट्रैक्शन माने when the माने when government reduces consumption of the people by imposing high taxes, एवं सेकंड में government also raises the rate of interest, so the borrowing cost becomes costlier. During expansion period होती ना more माने when government makes various makes relaxation of the government spending, so more money are coming to the hands of the people, more revenue. When government spends more money in the construction of roads, Government spends more money in the construction of roads, railways, highway, NH, highway. Government can build canal, bridges. Uh, Government can create public goods like establish new schools, college, hospitals. So government spends heavily. ସେଟା ହଉଛି ନା ସେତେ ଲୋକ ପାଖରେ ଅଧିକା ବିକଜ ମୋର ପିପଲ ଅର୍ ଫ୍ୟାକ୍ଟର୍ସ ପ୍ରଡକ୍ସନ ଗେଟ୍ ଏମ୍ପ୍ଲଏମେଣ୍ଟ ପାଆନ୍ତି ତାଙ୍କର ଇନକମ୍ ବଢିଯାଏ ଡିମାଣ୍ଡ ବଢ଼ିଲେ ଆହୁରି ପ୍ରଡକ୍ସନ ବଢ଼େ ଆଉଟପୁଟ୍ ବଢ଼େ ତାକୁ କୁହନ୍ତି বা expansion phase of the business cycle এবং ଯେତେବେଳେ ବଜାର ଯେତେବେଳେ ଇନକମ୍ କମ୍ ଥାଏ ବା ଇକୋନୋମିରେ ଆମେ ଯେତେବେଳେ ପ୍ରାଇସ୍ ଦାମ ବା ପ୍ରାଇସ୍ ଲେଭେଲ କମି ଯାଉଥାଏ ଫଲ୍ କରୁଥାଏ ଆଉଟପୁଟ୍ କମ୍ କରୁଥାଏ ଲୋକଙ୍କର ବା ପ୍ରଡ୍ୟୁସମାନଙ୍କର ପ୍ରଫିଟ୍ ଆଶା ବହୁତ କମ୍ ଥାଏ ଏମ୍ପ୍ଲୟମେଣ୍ଟ ସେମାନେ କମ୍ କରିଦିଅନ୍ତି ଇନକମ୍ ଲୋକଙ୍କର ଏମ୍ପ୍ଲୟମେଣ୍ଟ କମ୍ they employ less inputs or laborers ତେଣୁ ସେତେ କ'ଣ ହୁଏ ନା ଲୋକମାନଙ୍କର ବା ଫ୍ୟାକ୍ଟରୀମାନଙ୍କର ଇନକମ୍ ଲେଭେଲଟା କମିଯାଏ ପର୍ଚେସିଂ ପାୱାରଟା ହ୍ରାସ ପାଇଯାଇଥାଏ ଏଗ୍ରିଗେଟ୍ ଡିମାଣ୍ଡ ମଧ୍ୟ କମିଯାଏ ତେଣୁ ସେତେବେଳେ ଫଲ୍ ଇନ୍ ଡିମାଣ୍ଡ ଲିଡ୍ ଟୁ ଫାର୍ଦର ଫଲ୍ ଇନ୍ ପ୍ରାଇସ୍ ଲେଭେଲ further fall in price level gives rise to further fall in the profit further fall in profit provides incentives for the disincentives by negative incentives on the producer so they shut down their factory they don't produce more so the economy becomes very depressed or it moves towards depressionary situation ସେତେ କ'ଣ କରନ୍ତି ଗଭର୍ଣ୍ଣମେଣ୍ଟ କରନ୍ତି ନା ମାନେ ସେତେବେଳେ ଗଭର୍ଣ୍ଣମେଣ୍ଟ ଏକ୍ସପାନ୍ସନାରୀ ଫିସ୍କାଲ ପଲିସି କରନ୍ତି ଏବଂ ଡ୍ୟୁରିଂ ପ୍ରାଇସ୍ ରାଇଜ୍ ବା ଇନଫ୍ଲେସନ୍ ସମୟରେ ଗଭର୍ଣ୍ଣମେଣ୍ଟ କରନ୍ତି ନା କଣ୍ଟ୍ରାକ୍ସନାରୀ ଫିସ୍କାଲ ପଲିସି ମାନେ ଅଧିକା ଟ୍ୟାକ୍ସ ବସାନ୍ତି ବା କମ୍ ପବ୍ଲିକ୍ ସ୍ପେଣ୍ଡିଂ କରନ୍ତି ତେଣୁ ଯୋଉ ଏକ୍ସପାନ୍ସନାରୀ ଫିସ୍କାଲ ପଲିସି ଇଜ୍ ଆଡପ୍ଟେଡ୍ ଡ୍ୟୁରିଂ the bottom phases by depressionary phases of the economy by business cycle এবং contractionary fiscal policy are being adopted by the government or written by the government to reduce the demand or to control the inflation মানে মুদ্রাস্ফীতিକୁ ନିୟନ୍ତ୍ରଣ କରିବା ପାଇଁ ସେମିତି ଭାବରେ ଆମର ମଧ୍ୟ ଅଛି ମଣ୍ଡିଆ ପଲିସି ଅଛି ମଣ୍ଡିଆ ପଲିସି with respect to the demand for money, supply money by the central bank or by the RBI in India. When government inject more money by reducing the repo rate or the bank rate, okay, is the rate at which the other banks they borrow money from the banks. So when government increases the bank rate or repo rate, then less money is injected to the economy. It comes on way now during the expansion period, but during inflation, government try to reduce this the purchasing power of the people, try to reduce the level of the quantity of money supply in the economy by raising the rate of interest, bank rate or the repo rate. And during the time of deflation or the persistent falling edges of the business cycle, government try to inject more money to the economy by reducing this bank rate or by reducing this called the repo rate. Because at that time government इच्छा करता है ना केमती इकोनॉमी को बढ़ेवा केमती बुझी पर केमती ना पूरा प्राइस कमी जाइछि प्राइस फॉल करछि आउटपुट फॉल करछि एम्प्लॉयमेंट फॉल करछि देन टू प्रोवाइड इंसेंटिव्स टू द इकोनॉमी when जो समय कि प्राइवेट कंपनी माने प्राइवेट फैक्ट्री ओनर माने दरदम तीव्र ह्रास जो ताकर फैक्ट्री बंद कर दिचंती ताकर फार्म बंद कर दिचंती से समय गवर्नमेंट आसी जाए जे टू सप्लाई मोर मनी टू द इकोनॉमी inject more money by reducing the rate of interest when the rate of interest gets reduced then it provides signals to the private persons to make investment government ମଧ୍ୟ ବହୁତ ମନି ସପ୍ଲାଏ କରେ ତାକୁ କୁହନ୍ତି ଏକ୍ସପାନ୍ସନାରୀ ମନିଟାରୀ ପଲିସି ତ ଏଇଠି କଥା ବୁଝିବାକୁ ପଡ଼ିବ ଯେ ଇକୋନୋମିରେ ଯେତେବେଳେ ପ୍ରାଇସ୍ ରାଇଜ୍ କରୁଛି ବା ବୁମ୍ ପିରିୟଡ଼ ଆମେ ତାକୁ ବୁମ୍ BWM ବୁମ୍ ପିରିୟଡ଼ କହୁଛୁ বা ইনফ্লেশন পিরিয়ড করছো বা যা প্রসপেরিটি করছো সেটা যদি দি প্রাইস রাইজ goes beyond the limit of the control of the government then at that time government introduces both the expansionary fiscal policy and expansionary monetary policy by increasing the public expenditure and public borrowing government spends more government spending increases, and government also supply more money to the economy by injecting the money to the economy through banks by reducing the bank rate to control this price rise ଏ ଯୋଉ ଦରଦାମ ନିୟନ୍ତ୍ରଣକୁ ନିୟନ୍ତ୍ରଣ କରିବା ପାଇଁ ସେପରି ଭାବରେ during deflation or deflationary period government introduces tight monetary policy or contractionary fiscal policy ସେ sorry ଭୁଲ କହିଲି during ମୁଁ ଆଠୁ କହିଦଉଛି during ଆପଣଙ୍କର expansionary বা prosperity period ରେ government introduces contractionary fiscal policy by reducing this public expenditure, public spending, and by reducing the supply of money by raising the rate of interest to control this inflation or to जो दरदाम नियंत्रण करने पे. But during deflationary situation, during the downward phasing of the cyclical or the business cycle period of the trade cycle, government introduces expansionary fiscal policy or expanding fiscal policy and expanding monetary policy or cheap monetary policy by injecting more money to the economy or by increasing more public expenditure, public spending in the economy, by undertaking various public work programs so that more people are engaged. Government is going to dig the hole, fill it up. କିଛି କାମ ନାହିଁ ତ ଗଭର୍ଣ୍ଣମେଣ୍ଟ କ'ଣ କରିବ ଗଭର୍ଣ୍ଣମେଣ୍ଟ will dig the hole, fill it up ମାନେ ଗଭର୍ଣ୍ଣମେଣ୍ଟ will try to engage more factors, more labor in the economy so that they will get employment and they will have earn some income, more income, there will be more demand. ତେଣୁ ଡିଫ୍ଲେସନ ସିଚୁଏସନ ରେ ଯେଉଁ ସମୟରେ କି ଏଗ୍ରିଗେଟ ଡିମାଣ୍ଡ ଟା ଇନଆଡିକ୍ୱେଟ ରହିଥାଏ, ସର୍ଟେଜ ରହିଥାଏ ବା ଫରେନ୍ ଏଗ୍ରିଗେଟ ଡିମାଣ୍ଡ ଟୁ ରେଜ ଦିସ୍ ଏଗ୍ରିଗେଟ ଡିମାଣ୍ଡ ଟୁ ବୁଷ୍ଟ ଦି ଇକୋନୋମି ସେ ସମୟରେ ଗଭର୍ଣ୍ଣମେଣ୍ଟ introduces expansionary fiscal policy and cheap monetary policy by injecting more money to the economy so that the economy move from downward to upward. Safe as going to recovery period. As a result, which there will be a rise in the price level, rise in the output, rise in the employment, rise in the income level, rise in the purchasing power. Aggregate demand will rise. When aggregate demand rises, profit level also rises. When profit level rises, there is more incentive for making more further investment on the part of the private producers or corporate sectors or private firms. So, government expenditure plus private farmer expenditure, the country move or it is brought, the economy is brought on the right path or on the equilibrium path. So, ये जो हमें ये जो हेलो ये जो फिस्कल पॉलिसी मॉनेटरी पॉलिसी इंपैक्ट कौन ना मो आपन एट कहि रखती ना जेते बेले हमरो फिस्कल पॉलिसी ता when the economy adopts or the authority adopts, the government adopts the expansionary monetary policy सेते कोन हुए ना when the more public expenditure is made or more money supply is being made, the general purchasing power increases and the rate of interest falls. It provides incentives to the farms to borrow more money because the cost of borrowing will be less and for making profit or for profit maximization to fulfill their desire to make more profit or to fulfill the profit maximization goal, they try to invest more. When they invest more, they give more employment to the various factors of production including labor. As a result of which the factors production their employment increases or their income increases, output also increases, their buying cost increases, demand increases, price rises, and this provide incentives for a rise in profit rises for the investment. So the economy moves upwards. सेतेडे एग्रीगेट डिमांड टा बढ़ी जाए एवं that causes देखो a rise in the aggregate demand curve from 81 to 82. Okay, so if the aggregate supply remains constant, if there is a shift in the aggregate demand curve, the new equilibrium output is established at point E2. So Y1 is the new output level or new income level. Though there is a mild rise in the price level, which makes profit. So it has the impact of the fiscal policy and monetary policy. So when due to expansionary monetary policy or cheap monetary policy or expansionary fiscal policy, more government spending or along with private spending, more money supply to the economy, their demand increases. So it is an expansion impact on the economy, and the economy move from the down to upwards, and it is brought to the right track, the economic track or steady growth line track. On the other hand, when the government imposes a restrictive or the tight monetary policy, okay, or contractionary fiscal policy and monetary policy, or government reduces public expenditure, government spends less, creates less public goods, engages in various the government reduces the public works programs activity, okay, or the government reduces the supply of the economy or it decreases the supply of the economy. At that time it is called the contractionary policy, as a result of which the price rise is controlled or inflationary is controlled, okay. It is also happening here, you see. You see, so therefore, when the money supply decreases and the government supply also decreases. For example, the economy comes down from the a higher level to a lower level here or here. So you see how this is having. So due to contractionary monetary policy, the demand curve moves from 82 to 81, and the income level decreases from Y1 to Y0. Price level falls P2, P1 to control the inflation rate. So it happens. So therefore, the again I'll tell you insisting that the here the effect of the expansionary policy, okay. I will explain once again. And the initial equilibrium is on this steeper section of the aggregate supply curve. It shows the equilibrium output is at Y0. I'm not talking about the expansionary fiscal policy. Yeah, initially the equilibrium, you can was in equilibrium at point E1. Okay, and this when the government expands the fiscal policy or out of the expansionary fiscal policy or increases the money supply or monetary policy, the expansionary policy will result in a small increase in the equilibrium output from Y0 to Y1. Yeah, the everyday market shifts. An expansionary policy does not work well under such situation, which economic growth is less. If the steeper point, while the economic growth is less, inflation is much higher. We will attempt to explain the reason behind such a situation. When the increase in the government expenditure takes place, there is an unanticipated demand for goods, increased demand from 81 to 82, increase in the services to hire more labor and more per raw materials so as to increase their production. Consequently, the wage rate and the prices of raw materials increase, which lead to an increase in the price level in the economy. The increase in the price level results in increase in the demand for money, which with the fixed money supply leads to an increase in the kind of money supply increased by the central government. So without increase in money supply, this expansionary fiscal policy will lead to an increase in the interest rate, thereby reducing when the rate of interest increases, the interest level falls. As a result, which as you know, the resource, capital, labor, raw materials available in the economy are limited during this session. There are unutilized resources in the economy. Thus, there are adequate input available for the firms to invest. When the economy is operating very near to full employment level, situation is different. When the government expenditure increases under such situation, the government competes with the private sectors for the limited resources as available in the market. There is an increase in the interest rate, wage rate, and prices. The private sectors find it unviable to make the further investment, often with an crowding out effect. When the private sector that cannot compete with the with the government sectors, and here thus the government would try to bring back the economy on the track. Output will increase as a result of the government policy measures. The problem with such policy, however, is that the intersection of the aggregate supply curve S2 and AD2 curves would take place at a higher price level. As we can see here from the figure 6.5, that the equivalent rate of output is at Y1, but the equivalent price is P2, further rising price level. So the outcome is the situation of stagflation. It means increase in the price level. Okay, only. This term refers to the combination of the stagflation or stagnation in output and inflation in the economy. The economy would be experiencing both stagnation in output but rising price level or on the inflation. So when the economy will have less output or stagnant input or only rising the price level, it is not a stagflation. During the 1970s, the problem of stagflation was visualized for the first time. Subsequently, quite a few instances of stagflation is witnessed in many countries. Then we'll talk about the demand shock. The demand shock could be either positive or negative. Examples of positive demand shock are tax cuts, interest rate cuts, government stimulus package, etc. Example of negative demand shocks are natural disasters, stock market crash, while a positive demand shock shift the aggregate demand curve upward to the right. So when due to government expansion monetary policy, the aggregate shift in the aggregate demand, it is called deep positive expansionary policy. So aggregate demand curve shift to the right. A negative demand shock shifts the aggregate demand curve towards the left. Okay, an increase in aggregate demand results in increase in both the output and prices. That's the case of positive demand shock. In the previous section, we pointed out that the segment of the aggregate supply curves in which the economy operates is important. In case of economy is operating at the flatter portion of the aggregate supply curve. Okay, the economy is operating at the flatter portion of the aggregate supply curve, and there is an unexpected increase in the aggregate demand curve. The impact will be more on output and less on prices. In contrast, if the economy is operating at the vertical portion of the it is called the vertical portion, and here the flatter portion of the supply curve. So if the economy is operating at the vertical portion on this range, a percentage of the economic operating policy, and the impact of an increase in aggregate demand will be more in terms of higher prices, and the output may not increase at all. In figure 66, we can see that the economy is operating with the aggregate supply curve and aggregate demand curve initially at D0, The equilibrium output and prices are Y0 and P0 at this point, P0. Due to positive demand shock, or suppose the aggregate demand curve shifts from AD0 to AD1, consequently the equilibrium output and prices change from Y0 to Y1, and price level changes to from P0 to P1. So it is called the positive demand shock. On the other hand, if the aggregate demand keeps on increasing and an aggregate demand curve shifts from AD1 to AD2, if this aggregate demand curve keeps on continuously, it keeps on increasing due to increase in the exports or government stimulates the package, then the aggregate demand curve shifts from AD1 to AD2, which is the full employment output. It is called full employment output. So you see now up to this point, the aggregate supply curve is vertical, but after this point, it becomes vertical. It means this point at which price level is P2 is called the point of full equilibrium or full employment level of price level or full employment level of output, that is Y2. Full employment level. Subsequently, any further increase in demand beyond this full employment, okay, of the economy through phases of called the demand pool inflation. Then here the further rise in aggregate demand without increase in the output is known as this phase known as from P2 to P3. If the price rises from P2 to P3, then this is caused due to demand pull. Demand is pulling up the price of upwards without increasing any output, and this phase is known as the demand pull inflation. Okay, initiated by increasing the aggregate demand is called the demand pull inflation, and here the price level is known as the true inflation. When the aggregate output increases, the government must increase money supply. The point is, with the increase in the aggregate demand, if the government also simultaneously increase the money supply, otherwise there will be an increase in interest rate. Okay, so the principles of macroeconomics one, you might even heard about it. The economists generally agree that for a sustained inflation to occur, the central bank must accommodate it. In this sense, a sustained inflation can be thought of a purely monetary phenomenon. Suppose the central bank decides to expand the supply of money to keep the interest rate constant, as the higher price level pushes up the demand for money. The higher price level may be due to price in the cost of the factors of production or cost push. Okay, the central bank expands the money supply. The objective could be the elimination of the crowding out effect of a higher interest rate. Okay, when the supply of money is expanded, the aggregate demand curve shifts to the right again from AD1 to AD2, again from AD2 to AD3. Okay, then this shift of the demand curve, aggregate demand curve from AD1 to AD2, this shift of the aggregate demand curve brought about by the increase in money supply pushes the price up even further. Higher prices in turn increase this demand for money further, which requires a further increase in the money supply, and so on. This leads to sustained inflation, much rise in the equilibrium level of output. So after this equilibrium level of output, when the further rise in the price level causes the true inflation, or it is known as the sustained inflation. So this period, the price rise from P2 to P3 is known as the sustained inflation. So it's already been explained in this business cycle, as I have already explained you, that if the price rise goes beyond this equilibrium level, okay, so further rise in the money supply and great demand will not cause any rise in the output level. It only raise the price level, and this is not the inflation. So therefore, the upper portion of the business cycle are also known as the true inflation. Okay, so when in inflation or price rise takes place beyond this equilibrium level, beyond this equilibrium level, beyond this called the steady growth rate line. Okay, so the inflation occurs there. Whereas any rise in the price level before the equilibrium level is known as the stagflation. So therefore, to check this inflation or stagflation, so the upper portion of the business cycle line or these two mounting picture image of this business cycle is known as the phase of prosperity. Again, this phase of prosperity of two types is inflation phase and also called disinflation phase. When government try to reduce the inflation as a policy measure by policy instrument, deliberately reduce the price level in order the disinflation. Okay, but still the price level remains above the equilibrium price level. Okay, so it is so therefore the prosperity phase of business cycle has two concepts. One is known as the inflation, and another is known as the disinflation. On the other hand, the bottom or the lower portion of this business cycle is one part is when the economy moves from the equilibrium towards the bottom level of the deflationary situation. It is known as the deflation. When government takes or adopts the expansionary monetary policy as well as the expansionary fiscal policy by spending more public expenditure or by increasing this government spending or by injecting more money in the economy to boost the economy, then the economy gets recovery. Here also, as a result, the price rises, the demand rises, income rises, output rises. But here the price rise is below this equilibrium level. So when the price rise is below this price in this number, it is not truly inflation. Okay. So therefore, when the true inflation takes place only after the equilibrium line. So only after the equilibrium line, when the price rise takes place after this equilibrium line, it is known as the true inflation. So inflation is in a better way it is explained by these the various phases of the business cycle and how this expansionary fiscal policy raises this price level, raises this aggregate demand, raises this employment level, raises the output, and how contractionary fiscal policy reduces this price level, and how this also this expansionary fiscal policy raises this price level, output level, employment level, and how the contractionary monetary policy also reduces the price level. All are being explained through this fiscal policy. So fiscal policy has an important bearing upon this economy and attaining equilibrium, output and price level by shifting this aggregate demand curve and the aggregate supply curve remaining constant. We have all through explained how this. If on the other hand, if there is a supply curve also shifts due to the supply of more money into the economy, or due to more foreign exchange earning by exports earning, when the aggregate demand increases, output also increases. So both these shifts in the aggregate demand curve and aggregate supply curves causes the various levels of equilibrium points. Any shifting of the aggregate demand curve towards the right causes the rise in the output level and income level. On the other hand, any shift in the aggregate demand curve towards the left reduces the output and income level. Okay, so in this way, we have discussed about how the expansionary fiscal policy, fiscal policy, contractionary fiscal policy, contractionary monetary policy have very important bearing upon the economy, has a very important impact on the economy by attaining equilibrium points and various levels of equilibrium points of output and price level. We also define the meaning of inflation, various types of inflation, and in the I think there are other terms related to inflation like inflation, deflation, stagflation, or core inflation, which is the core measurement of the inflation, and how the inflationary situation or the price level, rising price level are being measured by index number, which is known as the price index number. And again, this price index number is of two types: wholesale price index number and your called the consumer price index number. And consumer price index number is the common index number in major price level. In India, it is being adopted by the central bank, our central bank, or Monetary Policy Committee of Reserve Bank of India, to control the prices in the economy. Thank you very much. In my next class, we'll discuss about the impact and effect of the inflation in the economy. Thank you very much.